Hello, American Patriots, and welcome to another episode of the Ducote Show. You had many places you could be tonight, but you chose to be here, and for that, I am forever grateful. My guest tonight is retired U.S. Army Lieutenant Colonel and former Congressman Allen West. Colonel West is a Christian constitutional conservative and a combat veteran running to be the next governor for the state of Texas. He is the third of four generations of military servicemen in his family. During his 22-year career in the United States Army, Lieutenant Colonel West served in several combat zones and received many honors, including a Bronze Star, 3 Mysterious Service Medals, 3 Army Commendation Medals, 1 with Valor Device. In 1993, he was named the U.S. Army ROTC Instructor of the Year. As a member of Congress, he was instrumental in passage of the 2011 and 2012 National Defense Authorization Act. He is a Newsmax TV contributor, senior fellow at the Media Research Center, and he's the author of Guardian of the Republic, An American Ronnie Journey to Family, Faith, and Freedom, Hold Texas, Hold the Nation, Victory or Death, and We Can Overcome, an American Black Conservative Manifesto. He is the former executive director of the National Center of Policy Analysts in Dallas, Texas, and a former director of the Booker T. Washington Initiative for the Texas Public Policy Foundation. In July of 2020, Mr. West was elected chairman of the Republican Party of Texas by overwhelming majority of state delegates. Lieutenant Colonel West is a former commissioned officer in the Texas State Guard. He is a legacy life member of the VFW, the American Legion, the Association of the United States Army, the Society for the 1st Infantry Division, 4th Infantry Division, and 101st Airborne Division. He is a Patriot Life member, Board of Director member for the National Rifle Association, and life member of the Texas State Rifle Association. Lieutenant Colonel West is an inductee into the University of Texas ROTC Hall of Fame. In 2016, Lieutenant Colonel West was appointed by Texas Lieutenant Governor Dan Patrick to the Texas Sunset Advisory Commission. I am honored to welcome back to the show a true American patriot, Lieutenant Colonel Allen West. Sir, thank you so much for coming back on the show. How are we doing today over in Texas?
I'm doing very well over here, Doug. It's only one correction I have to make is that I'm an inductee into the University of Tennessee Army ROTC Hall of Fame.
Oh,
I'm sure the Texas people will get upset if I try to bogart my way into their thing, but that's okay. I often have to tell people here in Texas that if it weren't for Tennessee volunteers, maybe they wouldn't have a Texas. So,
and I'm sure you're a big fan.
Absolutely. It's great to be with you, and it's great to be here. I'm down here in the border, Harlingen, Texas. I've been here for the past couple of days over in McAllen as well as here.
Let's just dive right into the number one problem that I believe most Americans, and I believe you as well, because you're running to be the next governor of Texas, not only does Texas face, but because Texas faces it, everyone in America does. Mm-hmm. And that is this wild, wild west on the border that we had progress being made under the previous administration. And now with this administration, not so much. What can you tell us that you're seeing, and what do you want to do about securing this, even if the federal government doesn't help?
Well, you're absolutely right. We had the Trump administration had rectified the situation with our border coming off of the Obama administration. They had started building a border wall, although Texas has a 1,254-mile border with Mexico. About 150 miles of that wall has been completed, but it was the policies that were in place and the fact that we had deterrence and the fact that the Customs and Border Patrol agents were supported at the federal government level by the Trump administration to do their duties and responsibilities, as well as ICE to deport individuals. Now you fast forward it to the Biden administration, who by unconstitutional executive order has implemented an open borders policy. They have told the Customs and Border Patrol agents that you don't do anything except for process illegals. You don't patrol. As a matter of fact, they're going after their own Border Patrol agents right now for the pictures of them being on horseback and trying to keep people out of the state of Texas. And then the other thing is that they've told the ICE agents not to do any deportations. So you have a federal government that has abdicated their constitutional duty and responsibility to protect the sovereignty of the United States of America and the sovereignty of the state of Texas that shares an immense border. And so what has to happen is that Texas has to step up and take that duty and responsibility. But we have seen so far in our Governor Abbott, a lack of action and a lack of will and resolve to do that. Been a lot of things, touching around the periphery, but nothing concrete. So what would I do as a Governor West? First and foremost, you've got to declare a border control zone, and you've got to put the state of Texas in control of that zone. You have to designate command responsibilities and command and control systems and structure. You have to develop the operational control of the assets from the federal government. If the Biden administration is not going to do it, you have to give them directives. But you've got to deploy your National Guard down there. We have almost 26,000 members of the Texas Military Department. We've only put about 1,000 down there, but they don't have the right rules of engagement or mission or task and purpose to deter people. And so we've got to get them down on the border. We're looking at what could be, 6,000, maybe 7,000, but that's the type of strength that you have to have and put them on the border, not back off the border, not observing on these infiltration routes to interdict that. Then you've got to look at the fact that we have these not-for-profit organizations that are down here and they're processing illegals, putting them on buses, giving them bus tickets, plane tickets, and what have you. I mean, Texans are seeing this and they're absolutely incensed. So these 501c3 organizations need to have their licenses to operate in Texas revoked so that they cannot do this. Yeah. And then the last thing is that the cartels are not cartels. They are a transnational narco-criminal terrorist organization, and we've got to designate them as such. And then we can start going after the banks that are doing business with them, that are laundering their money. Anyone that's working with cartels, you're aiding and abetting a terrorist organization. We start to freeze assets. We seize those assets, put them back in the coffers of Texas for a border security fund. So those are some of the initial things that I would be doing.
And all of that sounds great. We were down on the border. It's been 2 years ago now, right before COVID. We did a few documentaries down there. And we everything that we gathered, we tried to take to Governor Abbott and sit down and discuss it. We wanted him to see firsthand. And at that time, he wasn't doing much about the border because we weren't getting near election year or election time. One of the things I guess I want to ask is, as governor, when an organization or a news organization, and in my case, veterans, get together and would like to talk to the governor about something that they've exposed on the border or shown on the border, is that something you're going to, I would assume, engage in as to this governor, current governor, not even responding to the request?
Well, I'll be a whole lot different in that, what I learned in the United States military is that a commander doesn't sit in the office. Commander gets down there with the troops, and he's walking the line, and he's out there on patrols with them so he can see firsthand. So I would not be trusting and depending upon people to come back and report things to me. I would be out down there to see it myself and maybe have additional people verifying it for me. But I would be able to see sight for my own self and to make my own assessments. I mean, that's what a commander is supposed to do.
Outstanding. Exactly. When I had you on last, I don't remember if we talked in depth about it, and we won't go into it in depth here. But just out of curiosity, do you remember me talking with you about the terror block system?
A little bit, not completely.
Okay, we teamed up with Dr. Jerome Corsi and about this system that the military is using currently, or was using currently overseas to protect bases, where it's a rapid deployment wall. Mm-hmm. And prior to the presidential election, the terror block people had said we can finish that wall with this rapid system for way under what we were looking at budget wise, and have it in place before the election. And at that time, I believe it was Jared Kushner that had taken over the border stuff, and so that went by the wayside. But it's just something to think about. If you don't know much about it, you can find it on the web. But the terror block system is a great way to help secure that border. And we took that information down to the Border Patrol, and they looked at it and they were like, "Wow, this would definitely be a help for us." So yeah, anything that can be done down there. The sex trafficking and the drugs is, I was just looking at the map today on from the customs website, and it's just crazy what's been allowed to happen along that border.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. I mean, we have a crisis that stems around the drug trafficking issue. 8 to 10 times a day, there are drones that are flying fentanyl from Mexico over into Texas. And if you had people that were on the ground, you would eliminate them having these landing zones and people being able to come up and pick up this fentanyl. But again, that's why we got to deploy our National Guard down there. You talk about the human and sex trafficking issue. The cartels are making $25 to $30 million a week on just human trafficking. And of course, the sex trafficking is absolutely immoral. It's horrific. And Texas is a leader, top 2 in the country on sex trafficking. Dallas and Houston. Houston's not too far away from you, in Lake Charles is one of the top cities for sex trafficking in the United States of America. And of course, we have a public health crisis. But you bring up a great point with that terror block system. I think a lot of people go out there and they talk about a wall and they believe that that's a panacea. That's just one part of a border security system and a deterrent system. And so I think that what we need to do is look at ground laser sensors and systems such as that, maybe this terror block system. But the most important thing is that you can use a physical obstacle or an impediment to channel people into better areas that you can control with boots on the ground. So that's how we have to look at this as an integrated system. And that's what the military teaches you to do. And that's why we need to have that border control zone and look at these different sectors and break them down into the zones and subzones and look at all the redundant systems that we can put there to cut and block off these infiltration routes.
Exactly. I agree 100%. Besides the border, what are your main initiatives with the state of Texas if you become the governor? What are your priorities aside from the border?
Well, you're absolutely right. I mean, without a doubt, if you don't secure your border, you don't have a Texas. But we've got issues with our property tax relief and also transitioning away from the property tax system that we have here, which is really Marxist in nature. It's a progressive tax system. It's the 6th highest in the country. And it really does mean that people never own their homes here in the state of Texas. It completely eliminates private property ownership and rights. And so we've got to make sure that Texans, if you pay off your land, you pay off your mortgage, you should be able to own your home. So we got to transition away from this onerous property tax system. Another thing we got to do is we got to look at our grid, and we got to make sure that Texas never does look like North Korea at night, like we did this past February. We have such an abundance of energy resources here with a natural Saudi Arabia of natural gas. We should not have an instance where we have this over reliance on wind and solar, the renewables. But when you look at a lot of the campaign contributions for the governor and some other people, you'll see a lot of those renewable sources and a lot of these wind energy packs that are given the money, and we should cut off the subsidies to them. They need to be able to compete just like anyone else. So we got to do something about that. The critical race theory, I do not want to see the indoctrination of our children here in Texas. We got to get back to educating our children here in Texas. And so we want to make sure that we eradicate any semblance of critical race theory in any of the schools here in the state of Texas. So those are some of the other key initiatives that we want to resolve.
Excellent. And I for one, look, it's a true story. I told my wife recently, because we're looking at where we're going to move to once we get our house finished, and we're going to sell this. We don't want to be in a hurricane zone anymore. And she said, "Where are we going?" I said, "Well, look, we got a while, probably over a year. But if Lieutenant Colonel Allen West becomes the governor of Texas, babe, we're moving to Texas. And she said, I'm all for it.
Well, great.
So, true story. Anyhow, let's back off for a moment with Texas. Briefly, I just want to cover with you from veteran to veteran what has happened with the pullout in Afghanistan, the 13 American soldiers that died, the drone strike, I think rushed to how can we take somebody out and take the blame off of us right away? How do you see that? I see it, and I think most veterans see it as a complete and utter failure of our administration to know what takes place or should take place in a withdrawal of this. And the fact that the Joint Chiefs of Staff didn't step up, to my knowledge, and say, this ain't going to work this way. We got to get our Americans out of there first.
Well, I got to tell you, I spent 2.5 years in Afghanistan, based down out of Kandahar. And I don't think we will ever see another instance or an example of a gross strategic, operational, and tactical failure like we saw in Afghanistan. And without a doubt, this Biden administration, I think that President Biden is compromised with China. And I think that without a doubt, they did not care about embarrassing the United States of America on a foreign policy and national security stage, much the same as Barack Obama did with his unilateral pullout out of Iraq, and it gave us ISIS. But, the thing that really angers me the most, Doug, is that 20th anniversary, remembrance of September 11th, was the exact same day that the folks that we had taken out of power, the Taliban, were reinstated into power, reinstalled. They had an inauguration ceremony there in Kabul, Afghanistan. The Taliban flag goes up over the presidential palace. They invite Russia, China, Iran, and Pakistan over there. And, 85 to $90 billion of our equipment. China is now looking to occupy Bagram Air Base. And the thing that we have to realize, if we don't think that establishing or reestablishing that terrorist sanctuary there in Afghanistan is going to affect us here in Texas and the United States of America when we have a wide open border, we're delusional. And
Right.
So that's the link that decision to capitulate Afghanistan will have upon us with the spread of Islamic jihadism and terrorism. And so that's another reason why we have to secure that border. It's a national security issue. But what you're also seeing is that a lot of these Afghan refugees, not the special immigration visa people, they're already committing crimes here. I just saw a report about sex crimes, spousal abuse, and things of this nature. So this was a completely botched operation from the Biden administration, but they are too imbecilic and lacking in honor and integrity to be able to accept responsibility. And our senior military leadership, they're just appalling right now. They really are.
Yeah, it is. I did 4 combat tours, and I have a few injuries, nothing compared to some of my brothers and sisters that are missing body parts, but it's very difficult, and I know it is for you. I mean, you were there for 2 years to see this. I mean, the way I look at it is a surrender to the same people that were responsible for what happened on 9/11. I will say that I hope that in your future is 1600 Pennsylvania Avenue, because there's a lot of people that would support that, sir. Tell us where they can locate your website and information about you on the different social media platforms to help with the campaign if they want to.
Sure. You go to west4texas.com, west4texas.com. Follow us on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, YouTube. I mean, it's all there, linked through our campaign website. And we appreciate the support, and I appreciate you and your service, Doug, so very much. And there's some great property up in North Texas, not too far where I live, up by Lake Ray Hubbard, nice area called Heath, Texas, and Terrell, Texas up there. So take a look at that. And we'd love to have you cross that border and come over and be a part of what we're going to make sure that happens here in the great state of Texas.
Now I'm writing that down, but share it to wife. What is Heath, Texas?
Heath, 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 Texas. Anywhere up along Lake Ray Hubbard.
Okay.
North Texas, yeah.
Sounds good. And if I do that, we can go do some fishing. How about that?
We'll do some fishing, and I'll grill some steaks for us.
Excellent.
Yeah.
Lieutenant Colonel West, thank you very, very much for joining tonight's show. Much appreciated. Best of luck to you. And you're a true American patriot, and you are really appreciated by the American patriots all across this nation.
Thanks so much, Doug, and Army strong.
Army strong. Take care, sir.
Bye now.
Bye-bye. All right, folks. What a great guy. Truly an inspiration to all Americans. That's what a leader is. I've talked many, many times about leadership and how we have to have people in positions in all parts of government that actually have some sort of training or knowledge as to how to make things better and how to bring people together. And this is one gentleman that I believe is above and beyond capable of doing just that. I want to invite everyone to go over to the U.S. Customs and Border Protection website to see a little bit about what we've been talking about here on tonight's show with Lieutenant Colonel West about the numbers, the sheer numbers of what we're experiencing down there. You know, it's one thing to talk about it, but when you see it in black and white, it's kind of staggering. And I'm going to give you just a quick rundown of the past few years leading up to where we're at right now, and you will see how drastically this changed. So, and I'm going to talk about total enforcement actions with the Border Patrol, all right? In fiscal year 2017, there was 526,901 total interactions. We're talking about drugs. We're talking about sex crimes, sex trafficking, gang members, people coming across the border that are wanted felons, all right? Interactions with these folks. In fiscal year 18, it jumped up a little bit to 683,178. In 2019, it spiked at 1,148,24. And then it started coming back down. When Joe Biden took over, it was down to 646,822 interactions with our Border Patrol and those coming across the border wanting to do us harm or bring harmful things into America. And guess where it is right now? Fiscal year 2021 to date, 1,741,956 Border Patrol interactions right this moment. And that number is staggering, and it's only going to get worse. In fact, I'm sure this isn't updated as of right now on their website. I'm sure we're almost at 2 million. And before this year's up, I wouldn't doubt it if we're at 2.5 or even 3 million. The Border Patrol, the men and women down there are overwhelmed. I know some of them personally. As you know, I've been down to the border several times. We've done several documentaries on the border, and they are doing the best they possibly can to help protect you, American citizens. They do not have the support of the current administration. They do not have the support of the Democrat members of Congress. Hell, they don't even have the support of some of the Republicans in office. And that is just not acceptable. We've got to do better. We've got to do better come midterms. We got to get out and we have to vote. We must go to the polls. And If you're in Texas, you need to look at what's going on around you. You need to look at Colonel Allen West's bio. I read you just his short bio. Oh, if I had more time, I'd have read the longer version. This man is what we need in the state of Texas. If Texas falls, America falls. We cannot allow that to happen. I want to thank my guest again, Lieutenant Colonel Allen West, for coming on the show. Great American patriot. Go to his website. Check him out on Twitter, on Facebook. If you can support him in any way, shape, or form, please do so. If you haven't already done so, please go to DouglasDucote.com, sign up, check out the website. Wonderful things over there and things that you can't see on YouTube. As always, please say a prayer for our men and women serving in the United States military, our veterans, our law enforcement officers, our first responders and their families, our angel families, and our Blue and Gold Star families. Thank you, everyone. Hope you all have a wonderful and blessed day. God bless you, and I'll see you soon.